Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Today is Wednesday, March 4th. My name is Dr. Glenna. Thank you very much for joining me for the happy hour. I teach the concept of therapy as a lifestyle. Therapy as a lifestyle is the idea of addressing your mental health before it becomes mental illness. That means we give a concerted and intentional effort towards addressing major areas of our life in order to prevent mental illness to the best of our ability. Again, my name is Dr. Glenna. I am a licensed mental health therapist with a private practice in Torrance, California, where I specialize in anxiety-based disorders, emotional abuse recovery, trauma recovery, and just helping people reshape their entire lives. My favorite thing to do. So today is the happy hour. The happy hour is our weekly free psychodynamic wellness webinar. This webinar is intended to be used for informational purposes only. This is where we come, we learn, we take back some practical tips that we can use and apply in our life. The happy hour is not to be used in lieu of any psychiatric services. That means you don't get to say, I went to the happy hour, so I don't need to take my medication or go to group. That's not what we're doing here, guys. We use the happy hour for educational purposes only. If you are experiencing any mental health symptoms, please contact a licensed clinician, your primary care physician, or a psychiatrist. Today, we are going to talk about anxiety because I specialize in anxiety-based disorders. So, of course, we're going to talk about anxiety. We're talking about anxiety that lives in the body, not just in the mind. We're going to talk about some of the all of the symptoms of anxiety, not just what you're thinking about, not just it's all in my head. It's not just all in your head. It's all in your body. It's all in your nervous system. And my name is Dr. Glenna, and I like brown sugar Pop-Tarts. I just feel like those are the best ones made. Anxiety. Clinical definition of anxiety. In psychiatry, we describe anxiety as a feeling of worry, nervousness, or unease, typically about an imminent event or disorder characterized by a state of excessive uneasiness and apprehension, typically with compulsive behavior or panic attacks. In psychiatry, we recognize that anxiety is a feeling. It's a feeling of unease. Maybe it's unease about something that's happening, something that's coming up. And then we have, when we start to classify anxiety within the disorders, it typically has to do with excessive unease. So just the feeling of anxiety is one thing. The experience of anxiety, it is an emotion, but it becomes problematic once it is excessive. Kind of a more functional definition, anxiety is excessive worry that feels irrational but difficult to control. It is intrusive and it disrupts your daily functioning. It impacts your employment, your relationship, and your responsibilities. Again, anxiety is an emotion that everyone has, but in psychiatry, it is problematic when it starts to become irrational. When you know that you're worrying about something that you should not be worrying about to this degree, when it becomes difficult to manage, difficult to control, when the anxious thoughts and the anxious behaviors, things that you do in relation to how you're feeling, when they become difficult to control and difficult to manage, and when they become intrusive and disruptive, that is when we have a major issue on our hands. And we know in our world, we have a term called clinical impairment. When your anxiety gets to the point where it's making it so that you are not functioning at work, you can't even go to work, maybe you're missing work altogether, or while you're there, you're missing assignments, you're at risk of being written up because of how you're feeling, or your anxiety starts to disrupt your relationships. You ask an absorbent amount of questions. You cannot be reassured. That is a sign that anxiety is starting to become disruptive. It's not always romantic relationships. It could be child, parent, parent, child. It could be friendships. But when we recognize that it is the anxiety itself that is disrupting the relationships, we have clinical impairment. And when it's making it so that you just can't do the things that you need to do. Okay. We all get a little nervous from time to time. We all pay a bill late here and there. Some of us don't, some of us do. But when the anxiety is getting to the point where you are too anxious to handle your business, too anxious to clean up after yourself, to take care of yourself, then we have a larger problem on our hands. There's different types of anxiety. As a licensed clinician, I'm going to tell you, do not attempt to diagnose yourself. This is not your cue to go on ChatGPT and put in your symptoms and say, now tell me, what do I have? This is not your cue. I just wanted to make you aware of the different types of anxiety because we want to talk about what it looks like and how it manifests in our body. Okay, so we have good old-fashioned generalized anxiety disorder. This is when we talk about excessive worry that is hard to control, difficult to manage. Typically, it's generalized anxiety disorder. It just means that you worry about any and everything. The worry is irrational and it is intrusive, and you find it hard to manage. And also, it is becoming increasingly difficult for you to do everyday things, handle your responsibilities. It's probably generalized anxiety disorder. And then we have PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Post-traumatic stress disorder is the only disorder that comes post something, in the sense that if you do not experience a traumatic event, you will not experience PTSD, whereas the other disorders can come whether you experience something traumatic or not. So PTSD is a collection of symptoms that have come as a result of having experienced something traumatic. There's big T trauma, little T trauma. That just means that there are some traumas that are really, really big and really, really large. Maybe if you were sexually assaulted, or if you got into a major car accident where maybe you were injured or someone lost a life, that might be big T trauma. Little T trauma might be something that is traumatic. We're not handing out trauma trophies. It is traumatic. But it's traumatic on a different level. And then we also have complex trauma, which means it's a series of things that happen over a period of time. Maybe you lived in a neighborhood where there was a lot of violence. Maybe you lived in a space where there was a lot of like domestic violence or frequent fighting, or just something that was traumatic, but it wasn't a singular event. So PTSD comes after you have experienced something that was scary or made you think that you were in imminent danger. Panic disorder is when you have panic attacks, but it's the anxiety surrounding it is primarily around the panic attack. You can have a panic attack with generalized anxiety disorder, but panic disorder is where the panic attack is the primary concern that we're looking at. Agoraphobia, be careful. Agoraphobia and social anxiety are cousins, but not the same. Agoraphobia has to do with being concerned about being in spaces where you're going to be humiliated or trapped, kind of being in spaces or environments where you're going to be humiliated or trapped. Social anxiety has to do with being overly concerned with other people judging you, kind of being this is where you see people that they're at a party but they won't engage because they're concerned about saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing. Obsessive compulsive disorder, obsession compulsive disorder. Okay, so we obsess, meaning we mentally think about something to the nth degree, and then the compulsion is the action in response to the thought. So if I think that the germs on the door handle are going to give me MRSA, then my compulsion is going to be I have to wash my hands X amount of times in order to feel relief. Okay. So I have an excessive amount of anxiety, and it's manifesting in the form of an obsession. And then I'm using the compulsion, which is an action, to actually make myself calm down. Medication-induced anxiety disorder is exactly what it sounds like. You've taken some sort of medication that did not agree with your system, and it's caused some sort of anxiety. Selective mutism is we see it a lot in children where they choose to only speak to certain people or to only speak at certain times. So you may see a child that when they go to school, they are completely silent, and maybe they only speak when they're at home, or the child may only speak to a certain sibling and will not speak to anyone else. A doctor, dentist, mom, dad, teacher, cousin, they will not speak to anyone else. They are selective about when they are mute, meaning there is not a biological problem in terms of their ability to speak, but rather it's anxiety based, but essentially they are literally selecting who they communicate with, and all the rest of the time they are choosing to be mute. Separation anxiety is often another one that we see in childhood. It's when the child has anxiety around being separated from their primary caretaker. There's a lot of thoughts that kind of go through little kids' head, and this happens at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We know it's absolutely separation anxiety when we're talking about a child that should be old enough and that should be assimilated enough into going to school and being away from their primary caretaker. For example, if you have a third grader who's maybe 8, 9 years old that is experiencing separation anxiety, then we know that that is exactly what we're looking at. It's not like a 1 year old that's trying to get acclimated to going to daycare. And specific phobias, spiders, snakes, being specifically certain things that you are afraid of or that make you feel that feeling of being paralyzed. So there's different types of anxiety. I think the one that we're going to focus on just for the sake of today is kind of generalized anxiety. Okay. So we do know that anxiety can manifest in all these other different ways, but just for the sake of today, we want to focus on just kind of general anxiety. If you don't remember anything else about today, I need you to remember everyone has anxiety. You need it to stay alive, but you do not need to experience excessive anxiety on a regular basis. Everyone has anxiety. You're supposed to. You don't want it to go away. Sometimes people say, I want my anxiety to go away. I don't want any anxiety anymore ever in life. And that is not accurate. It's not as accurate as you think. Anxiety is a warning system in your body, okay? Where the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, when your instinct kicks in, anxiety is letting you know that there is potential danger nearby. Sometimes anxiety is letting you know that there is physical danger nearby. Sometimes it's letting you know that there is like conceptual, like, hey, this sort of issue or this conversation is going to lead you into danger in some way, shape, or form. So you don't ever want it to go away. It's an emotion. The same way that happy or angry or irritated is an emotion. You don't want anger to ever completely go away. You just don't want an excessive amount of it. And you want to be able to manage it when it arises. All emotions are there to teach us something. They're there to inform us of something. Anxiety is no different. Okay. You don't want it to go away because you don't want your nervous system to not warn you when something is potentially happening that could be dangerous. But you do want to have a life where you are not experiencing excessive anxiety on a regular basis because that, my friend, is exhausting. Exhausting. I can speak, I promise. Lions versus kittens. People with anxiety have trouble distinguishing between perceived danger and actual danger. Everything is processed at the same level. They see a small issue with the same relevance as an actual crisis. Lions versus kittens. If you were sitting in a 10 by 10 room, okay, and a kitten walked into the room, shy of you having severe allergies, you would not feel threatened, right? You might look at the kitten, you might say, oh my goodness, it's so cute. You might let it crawl on you, you might pet it, you would even let it fall asleep on you, okay? Even if the kitten bit you a little bit or kind of used his claws on you, you know that you are 20 times bigger than this kitten. And if you needed to defend yourself, you could. So you really don't see the kitten as any sort of potential threat. If a lion walked into the same 10 by 10 room, you would be clamoring to get out of there. You would be running, screaming, you'd be mushing your neighbor, like you would be doing everything in your power to get out of there, even if the lion wasn't looking at you. Even if the lion like looked at you and looked the other way, you are aware of what that lion can do if it chooses to fixate on you, if it chooses to attack you. You are aware of its power, its claws, its paws, the whole nine, right? People that struggle with anxiety have difficulty distinguishing between lions and kittens. So they equate all problems as actual danger versus perceived danger, meaning there are no kittens. Everything is a lion. Every problem that comes, every phone call, every time their boss says, hey, I wanted to check in with you. Can you come in my office around 3 o'clock? Every time your partner doesn't answer the phone fast enough, every time, your sibling kind of looks at you funny, it's like, what's the problem? Why are you looking at me like that? People that struggle with anxiety have trouble distinguishing between perceived danger and actual danger. And so everything is a lion. There are no kittens. There are no problems or no situations that can be easily handled and easily managed. Their perception is that everything is always a really large issue. What does anxiety look like? My disclaimer, I always give this disclaimer. I feel like I give it like a third of the way through every single time. But my disclaimer, my lists are never exhaustive. So just because you don't see something listed on my list, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It doesn't mean that that cognitive symptom is not a real thing. So mental or cognitive symptoms, these are things that are in your head. They are in your thought process. Okay. Racing thoughts. I have heard people say like, yeah, last night I was ruminating, and they don't realize that they are using the term incorrectly. What they're trying to say is I was like pontificating. I was thinking about in depth, right? Ruminating is not thinking about something in depth. Ruminating is often racing thoughts that just will not stop. It's thoughts that are going around and around and around and around, and we're not making any progress on moving forward. It's literally it's almost like bats of thoughts just kind of flying around your head. Rumination is often of negative thoughts. Whereas if we are just thinking about something, if we are strategizing, that's a different story. So we just want to make sure that when we say, I was ruminating last night, like I don't think that's what you mean. I think you mean you were considering a concept with deep thought and with reflection, because ruminating is often distressful. Okay? Racing thoughts, bats flying around your head, very annoying, very exhausting. Excessive worry. Worrying about something is it's natural. Again, we just want to make sure that it's not excessive. Excessive is when you've talked to this person, you hang up the phone, and then you call this person, and then you hang up the phone, and then you're rubbing your hands together and you're still thinking about it. And while you're at work, you can't stop talking about it. It is excessive. It is always at the forefront of your mind. It's not something that can be easily resolved. You are not comforted when someone tries to say, you know what, it's going to be okay. Here's some things that we can do. Here's some actual strategies that we can take, right? I'm not just giving you lip service saying it's going to be okay. Here's some things that I can do to show you, like, it's really going to be okay. So that excessive worry is absolutely a cognitive symptom of anxiety. Fear or phobia, being scared of something, again, thoughts. We're not talking about experiencing fear when there is physical imminent danger in your face. Okay. If you walk into a 7-Eleven and a gunman walks in, yeah, the fear is not solely cognitive. You have a good reason to be scared. There is imminent danger. We're talking about fear when there is no imminent danger present. Okay. When there really is not a direct reason for you to be scared of something. And we just are in a constant state of being fearful. Catastrophic thinking. This is when we think the absolute worst is going to happen. Okay. It's like, I heard my car make a noise. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to get a new car in a week. It's like, well, not necessarily, like you could have just had something funny rolling around in the trunk and it could just be okay. But catastrophic thinking is when we go all the way to the worst thing that could happen. Excuse me. And we focus on the potential worst thing that could happen. Automatic negative thoughts. This is when the very first thought that comes to mind is negative. Someone says, "Oh, that's a nice black sweatshirt you have." And you're like, they don't really like it. This sweatshirt is faded. They can see the lint balls all over it. Your first thoughts that you have about yourself, about the world, about other people, are automatically negative. We love automatic positive thoughts. We love those. And so we try to replace our automatic negative thoughts with automatic positive thoughts. But when you have these automatic negative thoughts, it's absolutely a sign of anxiety. This one is a little this one is a little different. It happens to people and they don't even realize that they're doing it, but intrusive odd thoughts or morbid thoughts, but except morbid is spelled correctly. So these thoughts are usually violent, irrational, obsessive. When people have morbid thoughts, people that struggle with anxiety that have morbid thoughts, it might look like you have a thought about your brother, but then all of a sudden you just have this, it's almost like a quick movie in your head of something really tragic happening, like your brother, getting into a really bad accident, and you can see the whole thing play out, but you can't make it stop. Okay. Sometimes the morbid thoughts are like kind of gross. Like you think about like skin being broken out or exposed, and you can't get that odd thought out of your head. Sometimes they're violent, sometimes they're gross, sometimes they're obsessive. But this is a frequent occurrence with people that struggle with high levels of anxiety. It's not talked about as much because who wants to say that they have these violent thoughts in their head? And they're not necessarily you inflicting violence on another people. It's not necessarily you inflicting violence on another person or on other people, or even concern about violence towards you. It could be, but it's almost like a little movie plays out in your head. You're distracted really quick, sometimes really long, because they can get a hold on you in a way that you don't even realize that you are entertaining it. But morbid thoughts, odd thoughts, and then difficulty concentrating. The anxiety has your system so worked up that you can't focus on what you're doing. Okay, so you watch the same TikTok 5 times because the person is talking and you tune them out halfway through. You're reading a book or something that you really enjoy, but you just can't concentrate on it. Okay. And then mental loops, thinking about again, like, did I say that right? Like replaying scenarios in your head. Did I say that right? Did I do that right? Like they introduced me and I said my name like this and I shook their hand like that. Is everything okay? So literally just replaying situations, replaying conversations in your head over and over and over. My lists are never exhaustive, but these are some common cognitive mental symptoms of anxiety. Behavioral symptoms. Your behaviors are what you do, okay? The actions that we can actually observe. Overeating and undereating. Overeating and undereating are both symptoms, can both be symptoms of anxiety. Sometimes when people are anxious, they start to just eat incessively, right? They're just snacking on this, snacking on that. They're looking for comfort food sometimes. That's when we start eating a lot of breads and sometimes for other people, it's sugar, cakes, candy, things like that. But just overeating, okay? Undereating is also a symptom of anxiety. People say, oh, yeah, when I get busy or when I get stressed out, I just lose my appetite. Yep, that's probably a symptom of anxiety. um, Both are. It just depends on what side of the coin you fall. Speaking quickly. Pressured speech can be a symptom of anxiety. Some people just speak quickly because they just speak quickly, and some people speak quickly because they don't realize that the anxiety is making so that I'm thinking about this and I have so many thoughts and I'm thinking about this and I'm thinking about that. And they don't even realize that it is now pressured speech. They have so many thoughts and so many big feelings. It's like a soda can is shaken up in their body and it's coming out in the form of their speech to other people. Interrupting. I did a workshop earlier today, as a matter of fact, where I talked about active listening. And we talked about how interrupting can disrupt trust. And of course, it is the opposite of active listening. But people that are anxious have their own thing going. It's like you're talking, they're having trouble concentrating, they got their own thing going, and then they feel like they have to say it. The anxiety is so high. The tension in their own body is so high that they feel like they have to say this thing at this moment. Otherwise, they're going to lose it, or I don't know what I'm going to do. Like they're scared their head is going to blow up or something strange is going to happen. But constantly interrupting is a sign of anxiety. It's a sign that you're having difficulty managing your own emotions and managing your own experience, and you're looking for a way to try to get some reprieve from that. Avoiding conflict. Avoiding conflict. We love healthy conflict. We lean into healthy conflict. And we love conflict management. But if we have excessive worry and if we are always on edge, if we don't have conflict resolution or conflict management skills, then we avoid it because there is a part of us, and that goes into procrastination. There's a part of us that thinks the thing that we are avoiding is dangerous. And so we avoid it because our psyche, our nervous system thinks that this is how we're going to keep ourselves safe. So if you go over there and you have to talk to that person, they got a smart mouth and a big personality, you are going to get emotionally injured. But if you avoid the conflict altogether, you can keep yourself emotionally safe, right? So avoiding conflict can absolutely be a sign of anxiety. Excuse me, procrastination. We procrastinate for a number of reasons, but one of which is we procrastinate because our psyche believes that we are keeping it, we're keeping ourselves safe. Sorry. Okay. Our psyche believes that we're keeping ourselves safe by avoiding whatever the thing is over there. It could be as simple as paying a bill, right? Your psyche believes that paying that bill is going to be distressful. And so if we clean the kitchen and mop the floors and call our grandma and do everything under the sun instead of just paying that bill, our psyche believes that, or not, believes that it's keeping us safe. Okay, because it thinks that that thing is going to be dangerous. So procrastinating can look like procrastinating on having a tough phone call, procrastinating on handling business inside your house, applying for school, applying for that new job. But the anxiety in us and the emotional dysregulation that's happening for us, the procrastination is a way that we can avoid having to actually face those feelings head on. Over preparing. Now, don't get me wrong. I love a good presentation. I love a good outfit, right? I love a good dinner party, where the tablescape is all pretty and all these things, and the angels start singing as soon as you walk in the room. But over preparing and overthinking every single detail is a sign of anxiety. Okay. Considering if you're going to meet your girlfriend's parents or your boyfriend's parents, considering what you're going to say, considering some talking points about yourself that would make it easy for you to share some things about yourself is one thing. Mentally scripting and practicing a conversation is another. Okay. Over preparing for things is a sign of unmanaged anxiety. Overworking. It's great if you have great work ethic. We love you. Yes, yes. But when you think that your value is tied to your ability to work, you probably have some dysregulated emotions. Sometimes we overwork to, again, protect ourselves from shame, from harm, from the fear of being fired. Sometimes we overwork because we're trying to overcompensate for something, but it can absolutely be a sign of anxiety. People pleasing. Um, my anxiety again is so high and I don't have the skill set to regulate it. And so I'm people pleasing so that no one will get rid of me. Everyone will like me and I don't have to worry about being abandoned. I don't have to worry about being discarded. I don't have to worry about being misunderstood because it's a basic human need to actually feel understood, to feel like you are a part of something bigger. So if I people please, that will keep me safe. Reassurance seeking. In all relationships, you should get some level of validation, right? Your partner should tell you that they find you attractive. Your partner should tell you that why they enjoy being with you. Your teacher should tell you you're doing a good job, right? Your parents should tell you, I'm proud of you in some way, shape, or form. Yes, those things, that level of validation does come with relational contact with other people. But reassurance seeking is when no amount of them saying, I'm proud of you. I think you're beautiful. I like being with you. You're a great mom. You're a great dad. You're a great coworker. No amount of that is enough. When someone gives you a drop of it, you go, well, what about this? Well, you think I'm pretty, but did you like my casserole? Well, did I put too much salt? Well, what do you think about it? Excessive reassurance seeking is where we run into a problem. I did a happy hour a few weeks ago, being talked about having a leak on the other side. And I talked about the idea of why it's problematic when a person can pour into you, and it's never enough. And it probably means you have a leak on the other side, and that leak could be insecurity, unaddressed attachment issues, or anxiety. Okay. And substance use. Um, Substance use becomes about the physiological addiction that the body chemically all of a sudden becomes addicted to it, right? And then substance abuse um, really becomes a problem again when your body is physically addicted to that substance, right? But substance use often starts when we're trying to quiet something else out, right? We're trying to quiet or substance abuse, I should say. Substance use recreationally is up to you, but when it turns into substance abuse and substance addiction, that's where we have a different problem on our hands. But substance abuse usually stems from there's an emotion that's really loud. There's a memory that's really loud. And we're just really, really stressed out. We're experiencing anxiety on a consistent basis in a way that we find, again, very intrusive, very overwhelming. And so we go to substance use that can turn into abuse as a way to alleviate our symptoms. Physical and somatic symptoms. Physical means in your physical body, somatic symptoms in your physical body. These are things that we are feeling in your body. So, for those of you that when I give cognitive examples, thought you're like, I don't think like that. And then I give behavioral examples, you're like, no, no, not me. I never do those things. Never. You ever clench your jaw? Mm. All of a sudden, you look real strong in the face. You ever clench your jaw, grind your teeth at night? Signs of anxiety. Signs of your body, essentially, again, like a soda can shaken up inside your body at all times for no apparent reason, for no good reason. Your jaw is clenched. Okay. It's almost like your jaw is ready to take a punch and it's not even a thing. Muscle tension, shoulders super tight, back muscles super tight. I don't know if you've ever gotten a massage. I know I have. I've gotten a massage, and the people, they start rubbing my shoulders and they go, "You work on a computer, don't you?" Like everything is like rock hard in ways that it should not be rock hard. Um, but muscle tension happens when your body is storing all of the anxious energy because you're not doing anything to process it out and to kind of get it out of your system. So then it ends up in your shoulders and in your neck and in your back and in your lower back in ways that you don't even realize. Okay. Shallow breathing. Uh, you can breathe in through your nose and through your mouth, and you can breathe into your lungs, and that'll give you a good deep breath. You can also take a big deep breath into your diaphragm. Your diaphragm, you put your thumb, lay it this way, put your thumb on your belly button. Everything under that is kind of your diaphragm. So you can take a big deep breath and breathe into your diaphragm, and that will give you an even deeper breath that you can take. Big deep breaths signal to the body that you are safe, that you are relaxed, and that everything is all right. Shallow breathing is close to hyperventilating, which is what happens when we are upset or in shock or something is going on. Or if we have just been running, there's something going on, we're probably breathing more shallow because we're trying to catch our breath and bring us back to a resting state. Shallow breathing is associated with anxiety, goes both ways. People that have higher levels of anxiety tend to breathe more shallowly, most shallower. People that have higher levels of anxiety tend to shallow breathe, meaning they're not signaling to their body often enough that they are safe and that they are relaxed. The shallow breathing signals to the body that we are potentially in danger. So it's a cyclical effect. The anxiety creates some shallow breathing. The shallow breathing signals to the body we are in distress, and then it produces more anxiety. So, what do we do about it? Breathe deep. Rapid heartbeat. You're sitting there. You didn't just run. Somebody didn't just come around a corner and say boo, right? And all of a sudden, your heart is beating way faster than it should for the fact that you're sitting down and you're not doing anything that really warrants that. Sweating. Some of us are just a little sweatier than others. Okay, fine. But sweating, especially when you are in perceived distress situations, you're sitting in a staff meeting, it's getting a little tense because maybe your team messed up on something, and all of a sudden, hands are clammy, armpits are sweaty. You feel sweat coming kind of down your chest. You feel sweat coming out the back of your neck or the back of your head, I should say, coming out of your hair. Sweating can absolutely be associated with anxiety. Digestive systems, digestive issues. Whenever I do an intake with all of my clients, I ask about your bowel movement issues. Sorry, guys. I gotta know because this is why. IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, frequent nausea, stomach pain. The gut is directly connected to the mind, right? So your gut health will tell you how you're thinking. If you're worrying about things, yes, all of a sudden your gut will be disrupted. So frequent digestive issues can absolutely be a symptom of anxiety, meaning frequent constipation or frequent diarrhea. Difficulty digesting food even can absolutely be linked to anxiety. Dizziness or lightheadedness, it kind of goes in with the shallow breathing. You're just not getting enough oxygen into your system. And so you're easily dizzy, easily lightheaded. Frequent fatigue. We have fatigue, sleepy, and tired. Sleepy can be alleviated with sleep, with hours of sleep. I didn't get enough sleep last night, so I'm going to sleep an extra hour today. I'm going to take a nap, and sleepy can be alleviated. Rest is what alleviates being tired. I'm tired when I got off work. Give me about 30 to 40 minutes to sit down and rest. I don't necessarily need to be asleep. I just need to stop doing what I'm doing, and then I'll be okay. Fatigue is different. Fatigue is a mental and physical exhaustion that is not easily alleviated with just laying down and taking a nap. Frequent fatigue can be a sign of anxiety. Anxiety is running in the background. It is exhausting. So you're thinking about things, you're worrying about things, you're over planning, over preparing for these things. You're holding your muscles super duper tight. Your body is physically tired, mentally tired. And so you start to experience frequent mental and physical exhaustion. Loss of appetite. Um, you're not eating, you've lost your appetite, you don't even have a desire to eat. Sometimes people with anxiety, with high levels of anxiety, will eat and halfway through the meal lose their appetite. Okay, being Having an appetite and being hungry, or not having an appetite and being hungry can be really difficult. It's part of you that's like, I know I'm hungry, I know I want to eat, but my desire to ingest the food is just not there. Tightness in your chest, again, tightness in muscles, kind of feels like a tightness in your heart almost. Restlessness, you find people tapping and moving and tapping their toes and shifting around. Thank God for fidgets. I didn't have a fidget when I was in high school or in middle school, but they got fidgets now, so the kids can kind of channel that energy into a little something. But restlessness can absolutely be a sign of anxiety. Frequent headaches, you're thinking about things which can give you a headache. You probably haven't eaten. You're not drinking any water. So physically, your body is dying a slow death and it's begging, please, something other than coffee. Please, I beg. But headaches related to the mental exhaustion. Difficulty sleeping, difficulty falling asleep, difficulty staying asleep, both. Excuse me. Um, you lay down and you know you're tired, but difficulty actually dozing off and falling asleep. So maybe you lay in bed for an hour or two before you can actually relax your mind and go to sleep. Or you lay down and you fall asleep at a reasonable amount of time, but you wake up at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, hours before your alarm clock actually goes off. And again, the use of substances to calm your symptoms. Okay. Recreationally is one thing, but when it's like, I need a drink because I just can't deal with how I'm feeling. I need to smoke, I need to snort, I need to, ingest in some way, shape, or form. But I'm using substances to calm what is happening in my body. Where does anxiety come from? Some of it is genetic, right? Some of it is just how we're wired. It's in our DNA. Sometimes mom was a little anxious when we were pregnant and got into us. Sometimes that's just how we're wired. Sometimes it's just that simple. It's our genetic makeup. If you never met your parents, you might still have these same presentations. Social learning, behavior modeled by your family of origin. We looked around and we said, when the money gets funny, how do we act? Right? When we get stressed out, how do we act? When things don't go as planned, what do we do? And if you saw your family of origin panic, cuss somebody out, be anxious, start pacing, then you learned inherently that this is how you handle stress, right? That you have anxiety, you have the presentation of anxiety, and you don't do a whole lot to actually manage it. What else causes anxiety? Trauma. Good old-fashioned trauma. You may have been the victim or experienced a traumatic event. Trauma in and of itself is not the problem. Unprocessed trauma is where we run into issues. Because you can have something happen. We've all had something happen. Nobody gets off scot-free. But if you did not have your feelings validated, if you didn't have the ability to talk about what happened, and just as simple as somebody give you a hug and say, I'm so sorry that that happened, unprocessed trauma can easily turn into anxiety because your nervous system is disrupted, and nobody's doing anything to help you with that. Nervous system disruption for one reason or another. Either it was disrupted and you never learned how to regulate your nervous system, and just emotional dysregulation in general. You didn't learn how to regulate your emotions. You don't know what to do when you have these big feelings. And so they just stay with you. In general, when you're nervous, when your anxiety is activated, your sympathetic nervous system turns on. So your sympathetic nervous system takes you up, parasympathetic nervous system brings you back down. The stress hormones kick in because perceived danger, your body thinks, oh my God, we are under attack. And so it sends you everything that you need. It sends you the adrenaline, it sends you the cortisol, and your body goes into fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Blood shifts to muscle, digestion changes, it's up. We ready to go. If this is prolonged, okay, because that is supposed to be a brief burst to get you to run away from the bear, to get you to run away from the mammoth, like you're not supposed to live under this state. But if it is prolonged, you'll have chronic tension, you'll have inflammation, you'll have exhaustion. The body becomes stuck in on mode. So what is supposed to be a little nitro burst to keep you safe and to get you out of a potentially dangerous situation, now you wake up with a nitro burst. You wake up on. You go throughout your day on. What's not going to work? Denying it. I'm fine. Ain't nothing wrong with me. That's just how I am. That's just my personality. No, it's not. I'm taking new clients in the state of California. If you would like to meet your personality without anxiety, without the trauma built into your everyday life, I would love to work with you. But denying it, guaranteed to not work. Ignoring it, guaranteed Guaranteed. I don't know everything about everything, but if you ignore anxiety, that is not going to work. If you think that you can just say, I'm just going to not think about it, I'm just going to focus on something else, it's not going to work. It'll work temporarily, but then the anxiety just builds up. It just builds a Rico case, and then it'll come back later on. And overcompensating for it, using again substances, relying on a relationship, relying on things that temporarily feel good. Um, Retail therapy, drugs, alcohol, overcompensating for it is also that's not how we're going to manage our anxiety. It's not going to work. How do you manage your anxiety? I want you to evaluate your environmental factors, okay? Restructure your anxiety to support a decrease in symptoms. What area causes anxiety and what can you do to alleviate it? Evaluate your environmental factors. So I want you to look at your home, both the relational aspects of your home, meaning like who do you live with, who's in your home, who's a part of your home environment, and the physical like structure of your home. Is there clutter in your home? Are there boxes? If you could see the office that I'm working in right now, there's a couple things that I need to straighten up in here, right? So the environment does make a difference. Are there things that you need to unpack? You have Amazon boxes, in the corner that you need to clear out of there. Um, is there organization, just basic organization, because that makes you feel calm. Is your home like, is it well lit, right? Do we need to get some lamps or do we need to open up some blinds? So actually evaluate, does my home leave me feeling calm and at ease? Do I enjoy going home? Do I enjoy walking into my physical home environment? And then the people that are in my home, right? Children, adult children, small children, partners, parents, roommates, evaluate like, okay, is this living situation really what it needs to be? Like, you know what? Me and my partner and my mother-in-law lives with us, and this is great, but I think we need a bigger space. I think that the physical environment, considering the relational aspect of this house, the two are not matching. So evaluate your home environment, evaluate your work environment. Again, both the relational environments in terms of your boss and the company in general, your coworkers, but also your physical space, your physical work environment. Like, do you need an ergonomic friendly chair? Like, does your physical space, is it really conducive for you to do work in a way that it feels safe and it feels at ease? No one is saying that you get to order that $1,000, office chair that you've been eyeing because HR is going to tell you no. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying evaluate your work environment and see if it's something that is realistic for you, or is the environment something that is increasing your day-to-day anxiety? Evaluate yourself. I know you got to do it. Evaluate yourself. Actually ask yourself, self, how we doing? What's our thought process? What type of beliefs do we have about people and the world around us that we need to work on? We need to be more aware of. Like, you know what? I did not have to pop off on that pizza man like that. I got to do better. Evaluate yourself and be honest with yourself about what do you really need, right? Do you really need to sit down and talk to a one-on-one therapist? Sure. Then stop denying yourself that opportunity and contact someone to get a one-on-one therapist. Evaluate your finances. It's hard to really feel at ease when you are constantly moving one penny from one side to the other. Okay. Evaluate your income, your outgoing, your expenses. I hear a lot of people talking about the number of streaming services that they have and saying this is getting out of hand. I gotta cut some of these off. I don't even watch Hulu or I don't even watch, Netflix. I gotta eliminate some of this. So take a look at your finances, the amount of debt that you have, your long-term goals, and see if your finances are contributing to your overall anxiety and what can you do about it. Pay attention to your temporary stressors. Like, is there something that's happening right now? It's just temporary. It's something that's just going on. Maybe you got to get some dental work done. It's going to be a little expensive. So it's a temporary stressor. It's once it's done, it's done. It's not going to be an ongoing thing that you have to be concerned about. But factor those in. And of course, pay attention to your social relationships. If there is a friend that drains you, why are you still friends with them? Why are you socializing with them at the same level? Okay. If you are in a romantic relationship and you cannot get any emotional support from your partner, why are you there? This sounds like a hostage situation. Like romantic relationships were designed for emotional support, right? So look into your social relationships, your friendships, your family relationships, and evaluate. Are there some that are causing more anxiety than others? Am I the problem? Am I the drama? Am I the one whose anxiety? Am I like looking for excessive reassurance and it's wearing everybody out? So look into those relationships and again, see what you can do. Um, Things that you can do, keep a little list, deep breathing. I'm an advocate of deep breathing because you got to breathe anyway. For some people, long-term deep breathing things like deep breathing exercises can feel overwhelming. So it's not for everybody, but just taking one good deep breath, well, that is for everybody. Okay, everybody's body does well. Taking a deep breath signals to the body that you are safe and that everything is all right. So take some deep breaths, do some deep breathing. Setting boundaries. Boundaries are the conditions at which a person has access to you. Dr. Glenna's bootleg definition. Boundaries are the conditions at which a person has access to you. You can come to my house under the condition that you call before you come. It is your responsibility to set boundaries. Boundaries are not bricks that we use to cut people off and keep people out. That's not setting boundaries. Boundaries are communicated with the intention of keeping the person in your life. I want you in my life under these conditions. Okay. It makes me anxious when you just show up to my house without letting me know first. I feel obligated to let you in. You're more than welcome to come to my house and visit me under the condition that you call me before you come. That is the boundary that I have to set in order to keep myself safe and to keep myself calm. Journaling. Journaling is amazing because you get to download your own thoughts and then you can go back and reflect. And you can say, wow, I was really in such and such a headspace at this time, or I really saw things from a different perspective at this time. And I've grown in these ways, or I see things differently now in other ways. And again, it's just a great way just to download how you're feeling. So a lot of that anxiety, I keep using the analogy of like a soda can shaken up. When you journal, it allows you to let some of the tension out. It's a great way to, again, download your thoughts, download how you're feeling. Say some of the things that you don't want to actually say to another person. Exercise, move your body. It doesn't have to be like, a 60-minute hit workout or 60-minute hardcore lifting weights with a trainer. If you can do those things, awesome. By all means, please. But if you can just get up and turn on something on YouTube and move your body, that's great. If you can grab a jump rope and jump rope intermittently, for 60 seconds at a time, that would be awesome. But do something to intentionally burn off the energy. We are exercising for sanity, not vanity in this case. So we don't have to be overly concerned about sticking to a structured routine so that you can hit body goals. That's not what this is about. This is about moving your body so that we can burn off some of the energy that you have. Eat healthy, drink water, eat colorful foods, leafy green vegetables, fruits, meats if you're not vegan. Like eat a variety of natural foods, not processed foods. Drink water, clear water, not bean water, not coffee, not water with Kool-Aid packets, but like actual just clear water and eat different foods. Pray. There is scientific evidence that people that lean on a higher power have lower levels of stress and anxiety because they know they're just going to turn it over to a higher power and kind of que sera, sera to a certain degree. So there is value in praying and talking to a higher power of some sort. Take a break. I know you got 15,000 things to do. I know. I know you got body goals, you got money goals, you got all the things. We are still in first quarter. We're in the third month of first quarter of 2026 and you are trying to reach your 2026 goals. But my friend, if you don't take a break, you will run yourself into the ground. You will run yourself into the ground. The same way that every night you put your whole body on a charging station and go to sleep so that you can wake up and function the next day is the same way that you have to come up from air, from everything that you're doing to take a break. You got to give your body time to calm down from all of those anxious thoughts and things that you've been worrying about. Talk to a friend. Talk to a good friend. Just tell somebody what you got going on. A good powwow can go a long way. Limit caffeine. Caffeine in an anxious person's body is literally gasoline on a fire. I mean, like gasoline and a blowtorch on a fire at the same time. It just amplifies everything. If you're already having a lot of anxious thoughts and anxious feelings in your body, you have to limit the caffeine. Otherwise, you are literally feeding the feeling of anxiety in your body. Use positive self-talk. I know it might sound cheesy. When people tell us to use affirmations, if you don't believe it in your heart of hearts, it feels like fraud. That's why when someone says, just use the affirmation, I am a millionaire, it sounds crazy because you have $3.72 in your account. So sometimes using positive self-talk can feel like a lie. It can feel like I don't really feel like that. I don't. But the more that you use it, you start to train the brain that these are the things that we focus on. We don't focus on those negative thoughts that come up. You train the brain to see more positive and to focus more on the positive. Take a nap. Go lay down. Literally, go lay down. Go lay down. Anybody remember that song anyway? Okay, I probably need to take a nap myself. Go lay down. Take a nap. Take a break. Shut it down for about 20 to 30 minutes. And educate yourself. Educate yourself means do things like come to the happy hour, read books, listen to podcasts, learn information that helps you to distinguish your personality from your anxiety. Okay, that's not just who you are. That is literally just anxiety in your system. Change the way you think about people, situation, events. Change the meaning that you have assigned to each event. I tell my clients all the time, all events are neutral. It's neutral. It's the meaning that you've assigned to it. If somebody holds the door open for you and you walk through it, it's neutral. But if you believe that someone holding the door open is polite, your brain will assign good to that action. All events are neutral, all of them, right? So if there is something that is a thought or something that is causing you anxiety, change the meaning that you have assigned to that event. Cognitive behavioral therapy, good old fashioned CBT, exposure therapy, disconfirm the fear. CBT is a type of therapy that helps you to slowly but surely change your perspective on things. Exposure therapy is something that we will give you a little bit of exposure to the thing that you think is really, really scary, often used for phobias. These techniques are things that I do all the time. These are techniques that you can do with a therapist that would help you manage your anxiety and create a plan. Identify your symptoms, write a list of physical, mental symptoms, like write down what am I experiencing. I gave quite a few examples. Write down, like, okay, well, I don't have those morbid thoughts, but I do have the automatic negative thoughts. And I don't grind my teeth, I don't clench my jaw, but I do have that muscle tension, right? Write down the symptoms that you have and then list specific things for each one. Because what you do to alleviate the muscle tension is going to be different than what you do to alleviate like substance abuse. So we want to have a plan or some action steps that you can do to address each symptom. So write down what each thing is, like what each problem or the way that it's presenting is, and then say, okay, well, when I feel myself focusing on the negative, I'm going to, use this affirmation or I'm going to journal immediately. I got a little like pocket journal and I'm going to pull it out and I'm going to download how I'm feeling immediately, right? So identify your symptoms, write a list of physical and mental symptoms that you can identify, and then list the specific steps for each symptom that you need to address and recognize it. Learn to recognize the voice of anxiety in your life. How do you know when you're being engaged? What changes in your thoughts and your behaviors when anxiety is becoming present? Like what changes? Learn to recognize it. Learn to distinguish anxiety versus your personality. It's like, I'm not really that wound up. I think I'm experiencing anxiety in this moment. Learn to recognize it because only when you recognize it can you actually do something about it. All right? That is everything that I have today. Again, thank you very much for coming to the happy hour. My name is Dr. Glenna. I'm currently accepting new clients. You can go to my website, drglenna.net. I would love to work with you. And I mean, if anybody is watching the replay, let me tell you, every single time I get to this part of the happy hour, the struggle bus be buzzing. There we go. Every single time I get to this part of the happy hour, I can't figure out how to stop sharing my screen. Thank you all very much for coming. I do have a couple minutes. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. Please keep your microphones muted and your cameras off so everybody can kind of stay anonymous. But if you have any questions or any comments, you can add them to the chat. Other than that, thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it. We are hanging. Everybody does that. Everybody kind of hangs out just for a little bit, just to see if anybody else is gonna ask any questions.